All right, guys. Slumpbuster, episode 32 on deck. Wash your hands on three. 3, 2, 1.
Slumpbuster. Quiet on the set. Make sure my mic is on. Eric, Dre, and Juju Dog diving towards the pylon. Go for two, so damn rude. Recognize authority. Spitting tips for fantasy. No way you're outscoring me. Bold predictions with conviction every single day. Sports addiction, no restriction. Kicking game like Pele. He's the greatest. What's the basis? Pick an athlete. Let's debate this game. Outrageous trading places. Sudden death. Take 10 paces. Turn and shoot. Boys the truth. Mamba mentality. Future greats take their place. Dreams become reality. Low and outside, knocked it out the park. Your boy discovered fire like a rock with a spark. Refs acting like Neanderthals. Phantom flags, nothing calls. Heartbreak losses, tragic falls. Every week discuss it all. Settle in, listen up. Free your time like Andrew Luck. Show's about to start. I suggest you buckle up.
All right, guys, welcome in to another episode, the 32nd episode of the Slumpbuster podcast. We are welcome in from the Off the Ball podcast with Chris Lebron. Chris Lebron.
What's going on, guys? It's a pleasure to be on.
I'm worried that people are going to start to assume we have an East Coast bias. We have two straight New Yorkers on, and you guys are in the heart of all the action this past week, so definitely feel for y'all. 70 cases here in Texas, which is marginal compared to the cases that are really in New York State.
We're in the thousands. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. We're the worst, I think. I think we have the most cases by far in any state. So it's crazy. Yeah. It's on lockdown over here. So it's, it's scary. It's a little scary, with everything going on.
Especially in a city that's as big and active, right, as New York is. New York is one of those major sort of associates with America of like, oh, that's where you've got to go. If you're going to visit, the United States, you go to New York, right, the Big Apple. It's sort of the mecca of all sports, entertainment. And it's crazy to see how, shut down some things are and how fast that virus spread around there.
Yet you guys are still like $400 a plane ticket. What's up with that? Like, what if I want to do some cheap traveling right now? Kind of give me a break.
Jacking up the prices. I mean, freaking a 12-pack of water is like $30 now. It's crazy what they're doing over here. They had to make people like, all right, you can't do that, guys. Like, it's like a little hand sanitizer, probably, like one you can get for like $1 at like a Dollar Tree or something, like $10. He's like, yo, it's crazy what they're trying to do out here, to make $1, it's crazy.
No kidding. It's definitely a rough time to be a sports podcast. That's for sure. I mean, let's run down the list real quick. XFL, done. NBA, done for a minute. NHL, done for a minute. MLB, sorry, you got to wait 2 months. At least the WWE's trying. I mean, Wrestlemania is still going on, but far from going to be the grand show that it usually is as they move from Raymond James Stadium out in Tampa where they were expecting like a crowd of like 70,000+ to now 0 crowd. And, I've just kind of been like gazing at like some of the shows the past couple weeks, WWE Raw, WWE SmackDown, and considering that vibe, that emptiness, I don't know how that's going to translate to a show like Wrestlemania.
I've been to a few WrestleManias and just the whole energy, it's just a great time, even though it could be a very long show. But the fact that it's going to be in front of no one, in my opinion, I think you should just scrap it, go on hiatus for a little bit. I think the most important thing is the safety of, your wrestlers, your staff, and, everyone that works for you and the fans. That's the most important thing. So just go on a break. Everyone else is doing it. The NBA's doing it. UFC just canceled some events. Everyone's doing it. College basketball's over, women's college basketball. I would just go on a break for a little bit. And if everything gets back to normal, you can always have a WrestleMania. It doesn't have to be right now. You could wait. Being in front of no fans, especially in wrestling, that's definitely weird. Cutting promos in front of no one is very weird. I think they should just wait. Take 2 months, 3 months off until everything gets, kind of back to normal, whenever that is, hopefully in a few months.
I think you're especially right when it comes to WrestleMania. It's kind of one of those weird sports where, they can pick up at any point in time and they'll be just fine. But the wrestlers themselves, I feel like they sort of feed off that energy too, right? Like it's going to be a really boring sort of fight that they're going through if there's nobody cheering them on. Like, and we know there's a little bit of acting that goes on, right, in wrestling. And so it's like, if you don't have anybody that's really cheering, right, I think a lot of times they use the fans to sort of gauge, hey, is this sort of what we should be doing, right? Do you want to see some more jump kicks or whatever? Or, you want to see me slam this guy more? And the greater the crowd reaction, the more they're like, okay, yeah, we'll keep doing that, or we won't do that. But now you don't have it. So it's like, how do you gauge that interaction and what's going well, what's not? How do you keep your energy up while you're going through sort of this long act?
Yeah, I feel for Vince McMahon, though. He already has his baby, the XFL, killed. And just like its first 4 weeks after they were finally having some positive buzz around it. And now you're asking him to shut down his biggest show, his prized possession, the thing that has made him his buck for the last 30, 40 years, basically his entire life. That is heartbreaking. It's devastating. Again, I'm a casual fan these days. Like, I'll keep up with like the names here. I was really looking forward for example, that Fiend Cena match. I really love some of the promos that guy's able to cut. But with that said, WrestleMania is really the only thing I'll really pony up money for, and if that's gone,
that's big because a lot of people do that. It's like the Super Bowl. There's how many people who watch Super Bowl just watch it because it's a big event. You make a whole day of it. You know, you get food, you invite all your friends and your family, and that's how I know I do it with WrestleMania. We make it a big day. I have all my friends over. You know, I go to a friend's house and make it a big deal. But now it's like it doesn't have that same feel. You know, because you're gonna watch it and there's literally no one in the stands. You know, I feel, like I said, I feel for the wrestlers because they feed off that. You know, when the crowd gets ready, when, you know, the crowd's rooting for the bad guy to get his ass kicked, you're not going to have that. So that dynamic's going to be very weird.
Extra element that's definitely going to hurt this Mania from a fun sporting headline was Rob Gronkowski signed a contract with the WWE just last week before all this like chaos unfolded. So are we going to still see Gronk at Mania? Do you think that's a possibility? I mean, how much in depth do you think they're really going to go on this show?
Well, I just saw that, literally just posted that he's hosting WrestleMania and they're doing a 2-night event. So
really?
It's a 2-night event, WrestleMania. That's what I'm reading right now, the breaking news I just got. So he's the host and he's going to have a part of it.
Okay, well, I think that Gronk is the perfect person to have that position. He definitely can carry a show. He's charismatic. But again, when you're trying to feed off energy, it's hard to be charismatic when you're basically just talking to yourself on stage or talking into a camera. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a very different vibe between, like, if you told me Gronk was up there yelling 69 a bunch of times in front of like 70,000 fans, I think he'd have a more positive response than doing it in front of an empty arena. One of the ideas I was talking to you about pre-show was, I think that honestly, they should just bring in a bunch of the wrestlers who aren't performing, just put them in the crowd to at least have some kind of crowd energy. Tell those wrestlers, hey, you're fans for the night. You know, we know they're obviously wrestlers, but it's something. It's some energy in the crowd from an optic standpoint to anyone that actually buys the pay-per-view, has a network that's tuning in to watch the show. From my understanding on why they didn't cancel Mania, just straight up, it's some sort of weird insurance policy. Like, they were hoping the city of Tampa would have canceled it for them because that would have like took a lot of liability off of them. And when you're talking about multi-millions of dollars, you don't want to take any chances from your company's perspective. I mean, everyone knows that your stocks are going to be hurting anyway because everyone's stock is hurting right now.
Yeah.
There is literally no one is making money during this time period.
Not at all.
It's staggering. I'm so sick of the coronavirus. Not sick from it, sick of it. And at this point, like, without boards, without WrestleMania, without anything, it's just like, what am I even watching? Shows. What are you guys binging right now? Just drop them on the table. I need content.
Now on Netflix, I just watched a documentary about basketball. I had to watch something about basketball. It was about these guys in prison who start up like a basketball league, and it's funded by the Warriors. And it was actually a really good documentary. You know, it's guys who messed up and just trying to get a second chance, trying to be a better guy, better man. You know, it's actually a pretty good documentary I watched. But it was basketball, so I was like, I gotta watch something basketball. So that was like, all right, I watched that, and it was actually a pretty good documentary. So that's one of the things I watched.
My girlfriend got me into this show that's called Toy Boy. I know it sounds awful, right? Like, I normally would not ever watch a show that's named Toy Boy. It's actually pretty interesting. It's about this male stripper that got accused for killing his mistress's husband, right? So there's this rich woman. He ended up not being guilty, right? So he gets out of jail, and they're trying to frame him again and all kinds of stuff. So it's actually pretty interesting. It's on Netflix. So I've been watching that. And then any like sports content I can sort of get, right? Like a lot of, you know, Skip and Shannon, right? And a lot of those debate shows, Colin Cowherd, even if I don't agree with them, right? Like, I don't always agree with their takes, but I'm like, hey, it's at least entertainment, something related to sports, better than just sitting there and watching nothing.
I've been listening to Colin. I've been listening to Skip over the last couple of days. They're really stretching at this point. Like, they're saying, thank God for the NFL. We'll get into that a little bit later. As far as shows I'm watching these days, if you haven't watched this newest season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, definitely get on that. Larry David is amazing. I wish like this happened post-corona, or I'm curious to see the next season post-corona, because I'm sure Larry David's going to come up with some great content for that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I figure if you're a comedian, I know it's a sensitive subject, but you have to have some corona jokes like worked into your back pocket. Just turn on Chernobyl, because I don't know, people getting sick, dying. I mean, I don't know, it just seems relevant to binge watch that show at this point. But I mean, that's what we're reduced to, guys. This is what the hell we're living in. I listened back to last week's show and we're talking about it. There was some optimism there. We're kind of like, this won't be too bad. And then just like, as I'm finishing like editing the episode to publish it, I'm like, oh, this is closed. This is closed. Oh, really? Now I can't even go in a restaurant. You can't even go sit down in a restaurant right now. Mm-hmm. Purely takeout. It's nothing like this. I don't think anyone could have projected the type of impact the coronavirus or COVID-19, whatever you want to call it, would have on the world as is. And I can't even name like the correct answer here. Like, what is it that people should do aside from, can we really just avoid each other for like, as long as they're suggesting these 10-person like minimum or maximum rooms? It just seems a little out of hand.
Yeah, I know over here that they're thinking about just everyone just being isolated where you can't go out at all. I know that's something either tonight or tomorrow that they're gonna have to decision by, but they're thinking about isolation from everyone. Like everyone just stay home, no one goes out. Like how they're doing in Italy, the same way, especially in New York, because New York we're obviously it's bad over here. So that's something that might happen where everyone's gonna have to stay home, be quarantined, and just for I don't know how long. I don't know how long they would do it, but that's something that's definitely being talked about over here.
Yeah, it's scary, and I don't really know what comes next, right? Is there going to be enough evidence, right, that we flatten that curve enough, right? That's what everybody's talking about, is that bell curve of how many instances there are of, COVID-19 and how many infections there are. So if it flattens enough, are we okay to start having these events again? But what if it, comes back? What if there's still some people that are sick, right? And now we reopen these events and it gets whole stadiums sick again and we start getting more athletes sick. So I don't know. It's kind of crazy times, right? And it's starting to get scary, especially in places like New York or Washington State, where they've got the most cases in the country. Like you said, Chris, they're starting to shut everything down, literally shut everything down. So
it's interesting because is this going to be the new standard for anytime we have a virus or disease of this nature? Is this just going to be the new policy? Just shut everything down, stop it in place, isolate, quarantine, whatever it takes. We're going to kill this in the instant, because I mean, in many ways, the thought process is that if this was handled like from the start, maybe it doesn't even reach the US, but hindsight being 2020, I don't think anyone could really projected that it would have this big of an impact on the economy, on people's health. The most I can say is just stay safe, guys. I mean, we all know that what sparked this off in terms of the sports media industry here. It was Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. That was like the matchstick that just set this whole thing ablaze. As soon as Rudy Gobert, we found out that he tested positive for coronavirus. That was it. The NBA just immediately, the next thing you know, everything shut down. And then once the NBA shut down, if you're the MLB, if you're NHL, you're put in a position where you have to make a call to action to suspend activity yourselves. I know people were out there pressuring the NFL to do it. I don't really believe in that too much. It doesn't make sense from a clerical perspective in the sense that they just need to handle paperwork at this point. There's nothing too much that they needed to really cover in terms of what they were doing. But for the sports that were actually in season, it's devastating. They didn't even mention March Madness. March Madness, which is the biggest moneymaker for a ton of these small schools that never have the opportunity to really be on the big stage. We like to, of course, demonize the NCAA and everything like this, but this is how a lot of these smaller universities pay for other athletics that don't have as much publicity. This is their one thing in a year that gets them a little bit of money, and that's completely out the window. So what's going to be the effect on next year's March Madness, next year's NCAA tournament? That's up to debate. And then from a sports betting perspective, I mean, think how many billions of dollars are put into tournament challenges each and every year. That's just completely off the board. I don't know, guys. I don't know what the recourse is, because we realistically could be feeling the economic effects of this for quite some time. I think it's short-sighted to look at this from a perspective of just 4 weeks, 2 months, 4 months. This realistically could tumble all the way for a couple of years.
Oh yeah, for sure, especially economically. It's going to hurt a lot of leagues and franchises. This is a long-term effect. The NBA, especially for like the NBA and stuff, and like you said, for college athletics, a lot of those teams who are 13, 14, 15, 16 seeds that are very, low mid majors and stuff. They need the NCAA tournament. They need their regular season tournament. They need their conference tournaments in order to get that money. That it could help the universities and athletic programs. So this is huge. The fact that they canceled college basketball, that's huge, and I feel bad for a lot of the seniors who came back and were looking for this moment to shine and have their moment, have their one shining moment possibly, and that's taken away, and it also hurts their draft process. A lot of these guys going to the league, maybe not so much the top guys and Obi Toppin and stuff, but a lot of these guys, we look at Kemba Walker. He did 10 years ago in the Big East tournament and in the NCAA tournament, that rose his draft stock. So for a lot of these guys, this is their opportunity to get, become a first round pick, to get into the lottery. And now that's taken away. And also with no draft process. So there may not be no summer league, no combine, Chicago combine, no meetings with teams. That's tough. That's really tough.
It's going to have incredibly long-lasting impacts. And, even going back to the NCAA stuff that we're talking about is there's been talks of, well, do they want to grant some of these guys an extra year of eligibility? But then what does that mean for your scholarships? Are you going to allow extra scholarships for everybody? Or are you going to say, hey, you can only have these certain amount of scholarships? So then if, you've got a bunch of seniors that come back, right, that are like, hey, I want to play in, I want to play in the NCAA tournament for my last year. What happens to all your freshmen, right? Do you make them take red shirts and say, hey, sorry, guys, we weren't expecting this. You have to take a red shirt. Or what if you were already burning a red shirt, right? Like, let's say you are a red shirt freshman this year. You're expecting one of the seniors to graduate, right? And you'll take his spot the next year, right? You'll have an actual year of eligibility now. Well, if that spot's not there anymore, do you just spend one of your years of eligibility just riding, on the bench? So I think it has a long-lasting impact. The other thing, too, that I've been hearing when it comes to the virus itself, especially in regards to athletes, is it's real initial right now, and I'm not a science expert, right? I'm not claiming to be an expert in infectious diseases. But what I hear is it messes up your lung capacity moving forward. So once you get it, right, like your lung capacity, at least from what people see right now, is only 70 to 80% after you're recovered, right? And you can imagine that there's some of these guys that are pro athletes, they need to be in 100% tip-top shape whenever they're competing. And could you imagine like some of our best athletes, right, being only at 80% lung capacity? That means, when they're pushing through the fourth or they're in overtime or something like that, they're not going to be able to give it their all. And it's not by any fault of their own mentally. It's just they don't have the physical ability to do it, and it could all be because of this virus.
Speaking of which, great athletes are affected by this and may lose, a little bit of a percentage of themselves would be Kevin Durant, who's obviously considered a top 3 player in the NBA today when healthy. If he comes back a little bit worse for the wear because of this, then that's going to be devastating. A promising young star like Donovan Mitchell. I know that Rudy Gobert has come under heavy criticism, but he's no slouch. He's a multiple-time defensive player of the year, first team all defense. To have those players impacted by this from the disease standpoint, that's scary. That hurts the league. And in terms of Kevin Durant and the Nets.
Why'd you have to say that?
Yeah, sorry. I mean, just a Freudian slip. I mean, I guess I kept getting told all off season that was going to happen, and sorry, my bad.
I'm gonna cry. I was told he was coming to the Knicks, and he didn't come. I was lied to. I was bamboozled. I was. All right, just go. Keep going. Let me just.
Well, my point was going to be, I thought, honestly, when you look at the Nets locker room, I thought Kyrie was just going to be the biggest disease in that locker room. But, hey, guess I was wrong. Yeah, shots fired. Shots fired. A little bitter Celticsness coming out. But, yeah, no, I can't believe, honestly, that headline came out. And it's telling because, obviously, Kevin wasn't out there on the court playing. Yeah. That's what a lot of people underestimated with this whole thing. Kevin Durant was sitting pretty, he was courtside, so he was around all the guys. But still, it's not so much as being on the court. It just sucks that, being within 5 feet of each other is causing this shit.
Yeah, and the fact that you cannot have symptoms and you can have it, like you could feel fine. Like we could feel fine right now, and we might have it, and that's the scary part is that you could go over, you could be, walk around and be around people, and you can have it and not even know it and not feel anything, feel fine, and you can have it. That's probably the most scariest thing out of everything. That I'm sure Kevin that was the way too. And we would think he's not around guys as much because he's not playing, and yet he gets infected. So if he can get infected, what about just people, regular schmoes, like me and stuff who work regular 9 to 5s. It's scary. This whole thing is just absolutely scary.
Were you watching the whole stoppage too when the Jazz and the Thunder originally got broken up? It was the weirdest set of events. Like officials just kind of got together. They were talking for 10 minutes. Crowd had no explanation. There's this, what's going on? I think they had already done the player entrances and everything. At that time, there was still the thought process, we'll still have games, we just won't have the fans, which again, just no one really was there for either way. And then, when they just got out of the tunnel and said, hey, everyone, don't worry, you're safe, just go home, get out of here. I think that's just going to be one of those videos that just we look back on. It was wow, totally unprecedented, totally game-changing. Well, let's talk about some actual, some court stuff, because kind of worn down talking about this virus. I mean, we'll stop giving it enough publicity for the time being. We did mention the Nets. Big story with the Nets, if the season ever comes to be, will be that they will not be bringing Kenny Atkinson with them into the, last quarter half of the regular season, if that still happens. Maybe playoffs if they're still in it. What do you think of that move? Because Kenny Atkinson, obviously, he had this team in the playoffs last year. What the hell? Why is this guy getting dumped? When I talk about Kyrie being toxic, this is exactly the type of stuff I'm talking about.
I always knew once they went the route of Kyrie and KD that Kenny was probably not going to be in their long-term solutions, because Kenny is a builder. He's a tremendous builder of young players. That's what the Nets team was. They were a team that was on the rise, that they were building young players, and that's Kenny. That's Kenny Atkinson. But when the minute they knew they took that, had the chance to get KD and Kyrie, that changed the whole team dynamic, because then now they go from a developing team that could be a bottom tier playoff team to now you get Kevin Durant. Now it's championship aspirations. So now it's a different mindset now. And I just don't think, one of my things is I don't think Kenny wanted that. It just comes with a lot of pressure, and he's always going to get the blame. It's always going to come down on Kenny getting the blame. And as talented as Kyrie is, we all know how great Kyrie is. He won a championship. He hit the shot over the 73-win Warriors. He's tough to handle. And, being a Celtics fan, what happened there, that whole dynamic, it didn't work, especially with a good young nucleus. And that was a way better nucleus than what the Nets have now. And, I could tell from the start, it just wasn't going to work. And I'm not shocked that they parted ways. And I believe a little bit that KD and Kyrie had something to do with it. But I truly believe that Kenny he knew he was a lame duck coach. And that's the worst thing to be, is a lame duck coach. To know that you're going to get fired no matter what, will you make the playoffs or not? And they were going to make the playoffs. And to know you're getting fired no matter what, you know what, just fire me now. Let's just get it over with now. So at least I can get the ball rolling with whatever jobs can be available and just get the prep process going. So let's just end this now and take it from there. So that's my take on that whole Kenny Atkinson situation.
No, I agree. I think Kenny Atkinson did a great job last year, right? With sort of a young team. He was able to overachieve in a lot of sense, right? A lot of people didn't have quite high expectations for that Nets team, and he was able to get them there to the playoffs. He developed D'Lo, right, up into a really good player that was capable of getting basically max money this year, and turn him into an all-star. So he did a fantastic job. It is a shame, though, like you said, that he was sort of the sacrificial lamb, that no matter what, he was going to be out this year, even if he had this team firing on all cylinders and even better than last year. And it's honestly kind of a shame in that, this team has, I think, underperformed last season's team in that they've got a worse record as of right now, right? If you look at their records, and they're supposed to have gotten better when they upgraded to Kyrie over D'Angelo Russell, right? And guys like that. And yet they're still underperforming. So if anything, I feel this is an indictment on Kyrie as a player, right? And some of the guys around him, not so much on the coach. But of course, you're always going to treat your stars really well, right? So you're always going to do whatever your stars want. And if they want Atkinson gone, then, he's got to go.
I definitely do think that Kenny should have got the benefit of the doubt on this one because I look at the replacements around the league. I mean, everyone's talking Ty and Lue, but I never really bought into Ty Lue. I'm just being honest about that one. But players are going to want to do what they're going to want to do. Kyrie didn't even want Ty Lue when he left a couple years back. Isn't that very telling in a way? We'll see how it works out for them. I made a hot take on our show here a couple weeks ago when we were talking about just the Nets. I think either Kyrie or KD or both are not going to be on their 2021, 2022 roster. So I think they'll make it through next year. The rest of this year, obviously, just fine. But I think one of them is going to be gone. I don't think this has long-term potential in it because these guys are just enigmas and they just change their mind very quickly, as we've learned. I'm still waiting for KD's burner accounts to come out, though, of throwing someone under the bus for getting him sick. I think that's just on tap somewhere. Someone on the internet's going to find that. Trust me. Okay, next New York headline, though, we got to talk about here. Just because, obviously, your fanhood here, I just want to see where you stand on this Spike Lee situation. We talked about it a little last week. We know that the Knicks are just a mess, a disappointment, and just keep finding new ways to break hearts. But, Chris, how you feeling?
I gotta breathe, take a deep breath. I take a deep breath when I talk about this team and that whole situation. It's a situation that for most teams wouldn't be a big situation, but since it's the Knicks and it's James Dolan, it went on to be a absolute explosion. Listen, I know Spike Lee is very, he's very, he tells it like it is. He's not afraid to tell you, how he feels and stuff. And he's very loud and how he is. And some people don't like that. But I'm a Spike fan. They should have just been like, Spike. We know who Spike is. It's not like a regular fan where you might not. We don't know who you are. You can't. It's Spike Lee. He is literally, when you think about the New York Knicks, he's one of the, you think Patrick Ewing, you think Clyde Frazier, Willis Reed, and then you think Spike Lee. He's on that Mount Rushmore, and he's literally been the most important person in the last 20 years too, because he's still at courtside. And we've been one of the worst teams in the league. It's just James Dolan being super petty. And I've not been one of those people who blame James Dolan a lot because I do think he wants to win. I really do. I just think he's terrible at picking his front office people, and he just constantly makes the wrong decision after wrong decision. And obviously that's his fault because you keep hiring the bad people, the wrong people for the job. When everyone's telling you don't hire Phil Jackson because he doesn't know what he's doing, he's lazy, he's not gonna put the time in, and you throw money at him, and he's like, "Oh, $20 million to not? I don't have to go international and scout guy. I'll do it. I'll take it. I've never done it. Whatever. I'm not gonna." And look what happened. He didn't last long. But the handling of Spike was, just let him throw. He's Spike Lee. I know you got your rules, but this is Spike. You know who Spike is. You know Spike bought a ticket. You scanned the ticket. You know this is Spike. Let him go. Now you make a situation that did not have to be big at all. This is a very little situation. You turned it into a whole big thing. And look at the next day, ESPN ran with it. They're like, Spike's like, I'm coming on, bam. And we just look like fools after a good win. And that's the people forget. We came off a good win versus the Rockets. R.J. Barrett had a career high in points. Mitchell Robinson played great. Frank played great, and it's all forgotten because James Dolan's super and then they come up with this statement like, just saying just ridiculous stuff, and they had the picture of where Spike came in and this is laughable. This is your biggest fan. He spends millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars to go to a New York Knicks game where they're probably going to lose, and they're going to lose for 50 to 60 games, and yet he still shows up, and that's how you treat him. It's just despicable. I hated the whole how to handle it, but that's the life of being a New York Knicks fan. You always expect the worst.
I did try and give your Knicks the benefit of the doubt with this whole situation in the sense that, yeah, I thought the same. If this was any other franchise, might have not blown up quite as big as it did. I do think that Spike does share a little bit of onus in this situation. He's not completely innocent, although definitely have you believe it by his appearance on First Take. I mean, he was quick to hit up Stephen A on that one, but with that said, you just don't really give with James Dolan, with the Knicks, with everything that's just been happening for the last 30 years, they just have no margin for error. They've been essentially fucking up for so long at this point that they have this much to wiggle room, especially after the whole Charles Oakley thing. So they cannot be making these kind of mistakes, Yeah, that's just how it goes. And you just hope that maybe next year they can make a solid decision on personnel. I've heard some Chris Paul rumors as a potential fit for them to get some locker room leadership. They even, I think this whole storyline, if I'm not mistaken, even like overshadowed their latest hiring. What's his name? Leon Rose?
Yes.
Yeah. So their new president of basketball operations, correct?
Yeah, that was his first day too on the job too.
Yeah. So, I mean,
on the job and all that happened.
You're really doing him a disservice when you have this kind of stuff pop up, because normal GMs, normal presidents don't have to deal with this on the daily. No. But somehow with the Knicks, they just keep finding their way into those situations. With that said, with all this coronavirus shit going on, what are the chances you think that the league's going to start up again? If I had to give you a 0-100% scale, where are you at this point? Because I'm thinking right now, maybe I'd give it 70-30. I'm going to be an optimist here.
I think it's over. I don't see them. I don't see it coming back. I think it's gonna get canceled this season.
Dre?
Man, I want to be an optimist, right? My Lakers are doing well this year, so I've got to hope that even if they can't play the rest of the regular season and they cut it short, right, and say, hey, we're gonna stop it here at these 64 games or whatever they're at. I'm really hoping that that's what it is. So I'm gonna lean sort of towards you, Juju. I'm gonna go 70-30 that they'll at least go through with playoffs.
One of the popular theories is people are going to look at this shortened season and see it as an opportunity to shorten the season further. An interesting question I have, if they do shorten the season, do you think players will still load manage?
I mean, they're going to have enough rest. Hopefully we won't see that. But yeah. I'm sure Kawhi will still have his typical time off or whatever. That's for sure.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, what's to say that you're more likely to get hurt with 64 games versus 65 games? Concept of load management, in a way, I do find a little silly in that regard. I do think that you could get hurt just walking down the stairs in the morning. It happens.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I also think that the NBA is actually going to look at this if they do resume play and it is a 60, what is it, 65 games right now they're at. They might look at that and be like, maybe this is how we should handle the regular season and by cutting it down, because I know that's been a big topic is, possibly shortening the regular season. They might look at this and be like, this might be it. Playing 62, 65 games, whatever that is, around that number, that might be the best way to get the maximum out of our players and not risk, guys getting hurt. So they might be really, diving in to see if this is the way to go for the future.
And players will love it up until they realize, oh, less games? Guess what that also means? Less money.
Less money, yeah.
And with less money coming off of this year, where you already had a bunch of games taken off the books, including playoff games, finals games, that's going to hurt the salary cap here in a minute. That's going to hurt players' salaries. Be careful what you wish for wanting to shorten the season, because bringing into the next subject, the most successful league in sports today, the National Football League, expanding their regular season. They're not talking about cutting games. We're adding games. The CBA just passed. We now officially have a 17-game regular season. We have an extra game on wildcard weekend as they expanded the format to 7 teams as opposed to the traditional 6 with the 2 byes. We now have lighter drug testing policies. The revenue share has switched. There's been a lot of changes that, unfortunately, given with all the stuff going on, kind of got overshadowed. A ton of players no voted on this, which I think is a horrible decision just in general. From any standpoint, whenever you don't vote and just leave it on the table, you're essentially saying, I agree with whatever. That's your decision. But here we are. So this is official. Like, we've been talking about it for weeks. We've been wondering, what would this work out to? How would teams work out? Who gets that extra home game? Who gets that extra, cut of the pie? There's a lot of factors that I don't think people ever considered. If you do have just the one team with the bye, do they have so much of a greater advantage than the other teams versus the teams that will have to play essentially 3 games now to make it to the Super Bowl? And Josh Gordon's probably a little bit pissed off because, well, obviously,
he's
just in time for 420, I guess.
He's not happy at all about this.
Okay, Chris, what do you think of the CBA passing? Do you like it?
I like it. I think when change happens, people get freaked out because we're so accustomed to a certain way, but I like it. I think it makes getting home field that much more important, now that the number 1 seed is the only team that's going to get a bye. So it just makes every game that more important. So I think that's, and adding an extra team, I think that benefits the whole league. And obviously that's just, not testing for marijuana is huge for a lot of these guys because let's face it, a lot of these guys are smoking. They beat their body bodies up week in and week out, training camp. A guy like Josh Gordon, it's cost him millions. He probably cost him $100 million contract. We saw that first year, he was dominant. He was dominant, and he only played 13 games and led the league in yards. And then obviously after that, it just went downhill and downhill after that because of these suspensions. And I always thought it was crazy that he just kept getting suspended for marijuana. I thought that's just crazy. This guy's doing way worse in the league that aren't getting suspended. DUIs, that's fine. We'll come play next week. DUI is fine, but smoking weed, you get a 4-game suspension. I understand it's against the rules, but morally, that doesn't feel right. To DUI, you might get a 1-game suspension, or hitting the whole Ray Rice stuff, with that, he only got a 1-game suspension initially, and they were like, whoa, 1 game? You just not see the video? Just, it's crazy to think, the whole Josh Brown stuff with the Giants. He was beating his wife, 1-game suspension, and Josh Gordon's getting suspended for the year and, 2 years. And, so I'm happy about that they cut, because, that was getting out of hand. The fact, and it's cost Josh Gordon a lot of money, and that was unfortunate about it. But with the whole CBA, I like the new playoff system and all that. So yeah, I'm in favor for it.
CBA, more like CBD, am I right?
yeah, a lot of guys.
Dre?
Yeah. No, I agree. I kind of like the format. I do get the players' concern, right? They're thinking, hey, that extra game where they're removing a game in the preseason, right? But they're adding an actual regular season game. And I get it. You always play harder in the regular season, especially like Chris said. Now you've got to play for that. 1 seed is really what you want, so you get that extra week off. If you're not the best, right, you're not getting that week off. So now these guys do have to play 1 extra game. That is harder than your typical preseason game. So I get the concern from a player health and player safety standpoint. But the other thing, though, is I want to say that they reduced the amount of padded practices that you have, though. And they took away, right, that preseason game. And so in total, right, I think the aggregate amount of hits that a player would receive during the season, including those padded practices, I think it actually reduces, which is kind of nice. So hopefully we start to see benefits out of that, right? Is maybe we don't see as many injuries, and maybe it's a complete wash, but I hope we don't see a spike in injuries, which I don't think we will, just based off a 17 game season, sorry. The other thing that, I like the expanded playoffs. I think they're going to have a hard time figuring out the schedules, though, right? With how do you schedule 17 games? Like, Juju, you were sort of talking about earlier, who gets that last home or away game, or do you make everybody play at a neutral site, right? Do you make everybody play overseas for one of their games throughout the season? And that way it all balances out. Then you basically have your 8-8 is the rest of the season. And then the scheduling when it comes to those 7 teams, right, that are in the playoffs, I think it just makes things a little bit more complicated. It's not as easy to play with those numbers if they were all even, but we'll see. I'm excited for it. More football is always a good thing, in my opinion.
They did also increase the roster size. We moved from a 53-man roster to a 55-man roster, a couple more players on the practice squad. So you certainly do have the opportunity to rotate more guys, lessen snaps, and having more guys in practice allows you to definitely keep your starters rested and replenished constantly whenever you're going through a hard day's work. Definitely coaches, though, I tell you, they are going to hate the lack of having their ability to have their players in an actual practice. I think a lot of people underrate practice actually does help. And I do kind of feel for the guys that lose the preseason game, especially with what all happened with the XFL this season. That was a lot of those guys opportunity to make the roster, to really stand out, to be on a television screen and pop. Now without that, some guys aren't going to necessarily make those final cuts that they would have otherwise. And hopefully by next year, 2021, they do have that opportunity to come back with a newly revitalized XFL or something, because those television minutes, they count. Sometimes they count more than even the minutes in practice, because some coaches just can't evaluate talent. And it takes someone who's impartial, who's just watching from a distance, to be able to say, hey, I think this guy fits my scheme, and to give him an opportunity. So I think that's a very underrated aspect about this. And speaking more on the little guy, the players that mostly turned down this proposal were considered more or less the elite tier of player. The J.J. Watts, the Aaron Rodgers of the world. The current revenue split as it's going to be constructed, essentially the salary cap bumped up at least $10 million this year. So, if you were a team close to the cap, you have a little bit more breathing room. room. And it went from a 48% or 47% revenue split to get about 48, 49, and 1% when you're talking about billions of dollars. It's a lot of money. So don't just snub your nose at that number. This is about getting the guys their money right now. And given the current world events, it makes sense. You can't be as bullish as you were like a few days ago. There's a lot of ideas that are getting thrown around in just everyday society that I'm looking at. Like last week, I was like, I don't know if that's going to work. But now my mindset's totally different given what I'm seeing. Just opening up my eyes and ears to what's around me. And I do think that this NFL CBA makes more sense today than it did even potentially last week when players were, the NFL PAs, they aren't working in our best interest. I think that players can't be as standoffish about it anymore. I did want to kind of like touch on, you mentioned Josh Gordon a little bit, like in terms of all the money you lost. I do think that players like that, it is a little bit of a different circumstance in the sense that the guy actually did have some real problems, just kind of like getting off substance abuse. And I do think that there could be more steps made to help players that have repetitive natures like that. Because believe me, I'm pro weed. I love Joe Rogan myself, but just in general, like you could take anything too far. You could take weed too far as well. And I do think that he probably did do a little bit of stuff to detriment his own career outside of just the suspensions themselves, because let's face it, if someone's telling you either smoke weed or make millions of dollars, you're probably going to lean more towards the latter right there. At least I would. That's my thing. I could give up like my minor vices if it came between a 9-figure contract and, some of the stuff that he was doing back in the day.
Oh, yeah. I agree with you with that he has a big part of that whole missing out on games and stuff. And he, like I said, he costs himself money. Like Stephen A. Smith says, lay off the weed, When it affects your money, that's another situation where if it affects your money, you should probably lay off, especially when we're talking about not just $1 million, we're talking about tens of millions of, possibly $100 million contract he could have got. So it goes both ways. Like, he messed up. He did mess up too, but it's still like, it was weed. It wasn't like, I know he went off the rail with the, he just did way too much, but I'm just happy that they're not testing it as hard, and that won't be a big thing no more. Is the weed.
What always gets me when we talk about athletes, we always forget they're making millions of dollars. We forget like, they're not making that much. That's relative to themselves, relative to the normal average citizen.
Yeah.
They're making bank. Let's be real about this guy.
Yeah, even the last guy on the roster, the 53rd guy, is making. Now he's going to be making more. He's going to make at least $400,000 if a practice squad guy. So they're still making good money no matter what.
Yeah, I know the mainstream media definitely wants you to think, man, Dak Prescott got franchise tagged. The goal of Jerry Jones. That's $31 million. Let's be real, guys. That's $31 million. Would you play on a 1-year contract if you were making 31? That's enough to carry me through my life.
I could right now probably retire off 31 mil and make that last, like you said, Juju, through the rest of my life. Honestly, like if I break it up and say, hey, that's $500,000 per year, right? That's 62 years that I would be able to live off $500,000 per year. Now that's assuming, right, no tax and all that stuff. So yeah,
he's in Texas too. He's in Texas, so
he's in Texas, yeah. So that is good money. So no, I agree. Some of these guys, they're sort of self-defeating. And I think it is sad though, is, coming from an economist background, right? And so I studied economics while I was in school, is some of these guys, I think they grew up in situations where they did see some of those issues, right? They saw the substance abuse, they saw the physical abuse with their parents. And so they mentally, right, they just think that it's okay, or they were around it for so long that they sort of normalize it. And unfortunately, they're not able to separate hey, I can be a millionaire, literally a millionaire, or I can, continue to abuse substances or do stupid things, right? Like hit my wife and all that stuff. So that's the sad reality. But you guys are exactly right. Like at the end of the day, you're still a grown adult, right? You know better. You can read the rules and you could see that, hey, drugs are not okay, right? Like it's not okay to abuse people, blah, blah, blah. And when it's the difference between making millions or that, like you would hope that these guys would wisen up and say, hey, I want to make my millions of dollars.
What would you say is your favorite added change, though, between like kind of the stuff we've talked about? I'll just go with the extra game. Can't think anything more than just, an extra week of football, like will make everything better. I'm a little bit less enthused by the added playoff game. I do think that taking away a bye just sucks, honestly. There's so many teams that would not be in the Super Bowl or not have that opportunity had they not been able to get that 2 seed. Now that's just non-existent anymore. And I do think it sets the NFL up in a couple more years to say, let's just make this an 8-team playoff.
I mean, I like it. I like it. I think it just makes everything just more interesting. If you want the 1 seed, you're going to have to play it through. You got to have to fight come every game. You got to bring it. I know it's going to look weird that it's going to be it's going to be 6 teams in the wild card round, but hey, if you want the 1 seed, you got to play, you got to come every week. And I think that's just going to make the season just that much more fun. That's just my opinion. And another thing I do like is the guys 45 till 53, 55 now are going to get a bump in pay. And I think that this whole thing is, we watch like J.J. Watt and Aaron Rodgers complain, but those guys are set for generations, They got their $100 million, they're set for life. This is more about the bottom, the guys that are fighting to make the roster week in, week out, and are going back and forth from practice squad to the roster and getting cut the 1 week, like Belichick will cut one guy, he'll cut you and then bring you back the next day and cut, that's for those guys, that aren't guaranteed they can't set their lives. J.J. Watt is set in Texas, in Houston. He's set. Aaron Rodgers can buy Green Bay. This is more for the bottom tier guys, so that's what I'm really happy about, is those guys are getting a bump in pay.
Yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat as you, Chris. I actually don't mind the playoff system. I think it's actually going to be kind of cool to add that fire under people, right? And like you said, I'm most excited for that dynamic of we got to come every single game, because if we don't get that 1 seed, right, like that's the difference between you having that extra week off and then you having to play 3 times to get to the Super Bowl. So I just think that the dynamic of the teams, right, and the dynamic of the play is going to definitely increase. We're going to start seeing people play more passionately every single week. Me being a Steelers fan, there's times where I could tell my team is just not in it. And it's usually every time that we play a crappy team, right? Like the Steelers, if they're playing a team with a losing record, I want to say like since Tomlin took over, they're like 500 against losing teams, which is awful given that they've basically made the playoffs and they've never had a losing season since Tomlin took over. That just tells me you're underprepared, right? Like you're not preparing for these teams that you should be able to beat. But now, given the playoff system, you can't afford to have that. You have to be able to, 1, beat those teams that you should be able to beat, and then 2, those close games, you gotta have everybody, basically all hands on deck, ready to come play in every single week.
All right, guys. Well, I think that kind of sums up the CBA talks right there. Again, this doesn't take place until 2021, aside from the, rule changes regarding like drug testing, all that stuff. That's pretty much immediate. But in terms of the extra game, the playoff, that's purely next season. Just recapping everything that happened in the NFL. It's really the only sport that's given us some substance at this time. In these crazy, uncertain times, football's always there for you. Always got your back. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our National Football League. I touched on it. Some of the biggest stories coming out of the week. Dak Prescott, franchise tag. We have the DeAndre Hopkins trade that happened. That was a huge one. The Browns are loading up. They got Austin Hooper, Jack Conklin. We have, let's see, what else do we got? What else we got? We got some other stuff here. Niners traded Forrest Buckner to the Colts for their first-round pick. Nick Foles is a Bear.
Nick Foles got traded.
Quarterbacks are just going everywhere.
Mariota went to Vegas.
Mariota in Vegas, Bridgewater in Carolina.
A lot of quarterback mode. You don't really see that in the NFL. Quarterbacks usually stay put for most part. But this is the one-off season where the fact that Tom Brady's in Tampa Bay and Bridgewater's is in Carolina and Cam Newton's probably going to be on the move any day, any minute. He's going to be on the quarterbacks.
Whoa, Brady's in Tampa? When did that happen? I heard they just went out there and picked up some random 6-rounder from 20 years back.
Yeah, he's had some success in the league, just a little bit. He's made some big plays and some big games.
Couple spot starts here.
Oh, that's it. That's about it. Nothing special.
Bottom line, NFL free agency has been a lifesaver because I think that everyone can admit that our morale has been just shaken this week. And we needed a boost. We needed a distraction as not only sports fans, but as a society. Just something a little bit different from what we've been experiencing. And like I said, they did it. They did exactly what they needed to do out of this entire thing, because we'll touch on Brady. Brady's a subject all himself. What's your biggest takeaway from the NFL free agency tampering period so far?
It's changed my whole dynamic of my show because obviously, if people, don't know, Off the Ball podcast, it's been basketball. strictly basketball. And now that basketball is on hiatus, it's changed everything. So now I've pretty much changed my whole show where I'm talking about everything now. I'm talking about the NFL draft, baseball. So the lack of basketball has made me, thank God for the NFL free agency. So it kind of made an easy transition from like figure out, okay, no basketball. Do I just talk about old stuff? But I was like, that can get boring after a time, talking about who's the greatest teams and who's the best. We've gone through that. I like talking about current events and getting into the game of basketball and stuff, but there's nothing to talk about. There's not even March Madness, not even college to talk about. So all the NFL stuff going on free agency, I was like, you know what? I know enough about it. I started off with my podcast talking about everything, and before I made the to stick with basketball. So I was like, let's just dive right into it. Let's just make the podcast about everything. So this, like I said, thankful for football that, everything, free agency has given us something to talk about, because like you said, it was down. It was a very down time. And especially, I was like, I thought about, do I just stop? Do I just cancel for now or postpone my show? I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I love doing this. It's just fun. And I was like, you know what? Let's dive into everything. And, I know you guys do that. You could talk about most sports. So I was like, you know what? I was planning on doing a football podcast separate from my show. But you know what? Let's just go all in on everything. Let's talk football. And I'm going to stick with that.
Yeah, no, this NFL free agency period has definitely been that sort of slump buster that we needed, right? Not to throw in our own sort of name, right? But it really has been a really big slump for the entire country, for the entire world, right? And NFL free agencies just busted that. The nice thing, too, is I think this has been one of the wildest free agency periods that I've ever seen. So like we said, there's all these quarterbacks flying around. But we've even had other big skills players, right? Hopkins sort of got traded, and that's going to be groundbreaking. You've got even on defensive fronts, right? So Quinn is going to the Bears, who already were known for their defense. So that team's going to have a remarkable defense again. So it's just been a fun, exciting period for the NFL right now.
Best reaction, I think, has to be poor Leonard Fournette, who's like the only Jacksonville Jaguar left, as they basically traded away their whole team. I guess it's no secret who's going all in on Trevor Lawrence next year. Jacksonville, they want to get someone out there in Duval or London or wherever the hell they're going to play. Duval. Yeah. It's funny, Chris, you mentioned all that. It reminds me, too, like when we originally scheduled you for this week's pod. Yeah, we were supposed to talk March Madness here. This was literally what this pod was dedicated for. Basketball podcast, March Madness, let's get it. Yeah. But, oh, well, water under the bridge. Yeah, my biggest takeaways so far, obviously, as a Niners fan, I guess my biggest one was obviously the Buckner trade. I think that was the most fair trade of this period so far. The Niners get back a first-round pick. They're now drafting in the top 13. The Colts get a build their defense out a little bit more with a big stopper in the middle. Buckner gets $21 million. So I think that's one of the biggest trades. Of course, there's a bigger one, and I kind of we'll defer to allow you guys to talk about it more so, this DeAndre Hopkins deal. I'll just add a little bit of context here because some stuff has come out in recent days, kind of a contentious relationship developing behind the scenes between Bill O'Brien and D-Hop. Apparently, some comments were made about baby mamas, something about getting compared to Aaron Hernandez, yada, yada. But I'm going to question the source a little bit, because I did hear this coming from Michael Irvin, and Michael Irvin's not necessarily the most reliable person to really count on, to be honest. I've listened to him for the last few years, and particularly when it comes to the Cowboys, he gets a little bit agitated.
He's a character for sure.
Yeah. So you don't believe that Bill Bryan would say those things to D-Hop?
Not going to say I don't believe that they were said. I'm going to say that I believe we're getting told one side of the story and stuff out of context. And generally, those are the type of stories that I always try and steer away from because, well, for starters, we don't know what was said. I can throw Bill O'Brien under the bus for a lot of things, a good amount of things, particularly his skills as a GM, but I don't really know about Bill O'Brien, the person, to really kind of know what these statements say about him, because it's not like I know DeAndre Hopkins on a personal level to say whether or not that he was a innocent party in this thing, kind of similar to what we were saying about the Spike Lee stuff earlier. We don't know what was happening between those two's interactions. We can only speculate. And like I said, what's the term like when you have a narrator who's unreliable narrator? That's why I kind of feel that Michael Irvin has been in the past. So I do think that it is a little bit of questionable source. The merits of the trade itself, I definitely do think, obviously, it's hard to ignore Kyler Murray gained a big weapon in DeAndre Hopkins from an on-the-field perspective. That's amazing for a young quarterback. especially because they don't have to pay Kyler Murray for a couple more years. He's still on that rookie deal. From the Texans' perspective, it's odd. David Johnson costs a lot of money. He was benched for Kenyon Drake last year. A little questionable from that perspective. Most fantasy GMs would have turned this down.
And the picks. And the picks are extremely questionable.
Yeah, it's everything about that trade was the fact that they traded him and then they traded Clowney last year and didn't get a first-round pick in return for two guys who are probably worth one for sure, but maybe two each. We're talking about a disruptive pass rusher and arguably the best receiver in the game, and you don't get a first back. Being a Giants fan, we traded Odell and got a first back. Amari Cooper got traded for, I think, 2 firsts, if I'm correct. Mohamed Sanu got traded for a 2. So you're telling, it's crazy. Like Hopkins got traded for a 2. Yeah, he thinks he's Belichick. And I know he's from the Belichick tree, but he's far from it. The only guy that could pull off the coaching and head and GM stuff is Belichick. Bill O'Brien has shown he cannot do it. And, I don't know how he still has a job, but somehow they're keeping him there. And then I don't know what they're doing over there. And they're just trying to ruin Watson, I guess, because this just hurts him. Don't you want to keep weapons for him and build him? That's your franchise quarterback. I don't know what they're doing in Houston.
Well, my thought on it was, it's disappointing they didn't get better draft compensation. But at the same time, this is probably the draft to get rid of a wide receiver for. This entire draft is loaded top to bottom down with wide receivers, from Judy to Ruggs to the kids coming out of like LSU. There's options there. I do think that you're right, though. It's like you really couldn't get anything better. I mean, Stephon Diggs was literally traded hours later for better draft pick compensation. What are you thinking? Like, you couldn't pick up the phone for someone else and say, hey, do you want DeAndre Hopkins? Give me a 2. We're done here. That's your negotiating strategy, Bill O'Brien? I'm not going to trust you to handle my finances if that's the case.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that why wouldn't you put that to a bid, right? To me, it just seems that Bill O'Brien just hopped on the phone and said, hey, do you want DeAndre Hopkins? What are you willing to give me for him? Hey, I'll give you 2 and then next year's 4th. All right, sure, done deal. Like, if you've got that big of a key piece, you can call any team in the league and they're each going to give you a different answer, but at least you're going to get a lot of those and say, hey, you're offering me this. Well, another team, they offered me, 2 seconds or something like that. A second this year, a second next year. Can you beat that? You go to the next team. Hey, okay, we'll give you a first. Okay, I've got another team offering me a first. What's next? It seems like they didn't do any of their due diligence. It seems like they sort of just said, all right, just give me whatever you want. I just got to get rid of this guy, right? Or we don't want him on our roster for whatever reason. Or like you said, yes, there's a lot of wide receivers in this draft. But what you're giving up, though, is you're giving up a proven talent who, like Chris said, is arguably the best receiver. Eris, one of our co-hosts in our fantasy football podcast, he thinks Hopkins is the best receiver by the definition of what you're asking a receiver to do, right? Is to catch balls that you put near them, and Hopkins is the best at that. And so you've got this proven commodity, this proven talent, and now you're going to take that risk and gamble on, hey, can I get some cheaper guys in this year's draft who, yes, they're proven in college, but everybody knows that the college level is definitely not the pro level, right? So the fact that you're only going to get a second and next year's 4th round pick is mind-boggling to me.
It would have made sense for them to get a first just from the perspective that they gave up their first with the Laramie Tunsil trade the previous year. And again, you're right. Brandon Cooks traded for a first-round pick twice. Odell traded for a first. You go down the list. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders got at least a 3rd and a 4th. You do consider that D-Hop is at a level above those guys. Odell gained a first-round pick. Odell hasn't been Odell for at least 7 years, if we're being honest about it. I think that Bill O'Brien just has too much on his plate. It's not making necessarily the most rational decisions. But at the same time, the Texans keep winning this division. So unless they lose their division to the Colts this year, is it really time to hit that panic button? It's hard to say. And I know that Deshaun Watson was glowing in his review of Bill O'Brien after the playoff loss to the Chiefs. How much of that was surface level, I guess we'll have to determine as time goes on. But if they do have a healthy season of Will Fuller, if they do draft well, there's potential there. And David Johnson, if he can resurrect his career in Houston, we remember how good of a player David Johnson was a few years back before the wrist injury. There is some key pieces there to be optimistic about. It just seems a little odd because this idea we have of DeAndre Hopkins, it's one of the best receivers in the league. I'd probably rank him below like Julio, but he's probably the best receiver in the league.
I mean, 2 years ago, he didn't have a drop.
Yeah.
He didn't have a single drop. You know how hard that is to not have a drop? He didn't have one. You don't trade, and you get a second-round pick. You trade a second-round pick for that? He didn't drop a patch 2 years ago. This man is worth at least 2 first-round picks. When Bill O'Brien calls me and said, all right, a 2. I'd be like, wait, that's it? Am I here? Just a 2. You didn't mean like a 1 and a 2. Just a 2. Yeah, I mean, being pranked. I would be like, I'm being pranked. I'm running to the phone like, oh, and you want just a 4? Was it a 4 also? Oh, yeah. We'll do it. Of course we'll do that. Of course. You can't even pull that trade off in Madden. You'll get the red bar. You know how it's the bar and it's accepted and has the red like, yeah, what are you doing? Like, no, it's in the red. In Madden, it's in the red.
I guess one question, though, you have to ask yourself is how much are you going to pay Watson next year? Because if you're going to pay Watson a good amount, if you're going to pay him close to $40 million, then you're not going to be able to afford what DeAndre Hopkins is going to demand in salary. Let's be frank, it still is a capped league, so that is something you do have to factor.
Yeah, is Watson still going to be around, though? If you screw this up, and because we've seen that they haven't been able to protect Watson, they just have not put a line together that keeps him from getting hit. Luckily, he's had some good weapons around him, but now there's only Fuller, right? So they're not able to hit on this year's draft at wide receiver. Does Watson just say, hey, I've had enough of this crap? Like, I've been hit way too many times. You guys got rid of my best receiver for nothing, right? For crap. And, and now you expect me to get more hits? Yes, I'm sure he likes money, but there's still going to be a lot of teams that just because quarterbacks are flying around this year, there's still going to be some teams that need a quarterback next year.
I don't know about that. We seem to be at a quarterback surplus right now, and I do rank Deshaun Watson as a top 10 quarterback, so teams would definitely jump at that opportunity should it be available. But if it does come down to a tough negotiating process, well, guess what Bill O'Brien and the Texans have in their back pocket? It's called the franchise tag. And if you are Deshaun Watson, you have to think about this reasonably. You are currently in Houston. You are currently in Texas. You have the opportunity to have no state income tax. Your team is still winning, which is a thing that not a lot of franchises even can boast. And you did mention as far as their inability to get together line, it's not for lack of trying. They did make that Laramie Tunsil trade just last year. And let's not forget, they were up 24 points against the Chiefs this past year. So this team does have talent. It's just they're not necessarily using it right. And Deshaun Watson does own a little bit of the sacks himself. He'll even admit he scrambled too long. And that did cause for him to get dropped in the backfield more than your average quarterback. Just if you look at purely the PFF, the offensive line for the Houston Texans is actually above average.
Without a doubt, I still think that, Bill O'Brien, if he screws this up, because now, with all this being said, right, and Chris saying like, hey, yeah, this guy's got to be crazy to not demand at least 1 first-round pick for him. If Bill O'Brien makes that big of a risk of, hey, I've got to get rid of D. Hopkins, right, who's one of the best receivers in the league, and, I'm only going to get a second and a future 4th-round pick for it, you better hit on that second and you better hit on that future 4th-round pick, because if you screw that up, you just gave away like a generational talent at wide receiver for nothing. And I think if you're Watson, you got to look at that and say, and granted, it'll come down to what does Watson value more? Does he value winning or does he value money more? Because if he goes the money route, you're right. Like, he's going to get paid pretty much a highest salary as a quarterback can. He's in Texas. All is going to be good for him. But if he values winning, I personally feel that he's going to look at that and say, look, Bill O'Brien, you can't do both jobs, right? And you suck at GM because you gave away generational talent and you weren't able to hit on the 1 pick that you did get back for him.
But we got to ask ourselves then, what would Bill O'Brien have to do to not retain his job? What is a horrible enough finish for Bill O'Brien to, well, I guess technically lose both his jobs, GM and coach? Would he have to miss the playoffs? Would he have to get booted first round? Where do we set that standard? Because, again, this team keeps winning the division year after year. Coming from a fan who has seen his team in huge playoff droughts, I do think that we can't underrate how tough it is just to make the playoffs. And it's happening. I mean, you look at what this team was just a few years back with Bill O'Brien. They had Brian Hoyer and they were making the playoffs. We have to give him a little bit of credit. It's just, I do think that he has gone that Chip Kelly route where he's taken too much control and he's going to be drowning in it.
Yeah, I agree. I think too much control is too much. I don't think he's, like I said, he should not have the GM. They should have found a GM and just let him worry about his coaching, because even this coaching is kind of a little suspect. I'm not a big Bill O'Brien fan. I don't know how he still has a job. But with the whole Watson thing too, is that he can fall into that Andrew Luck thing. Early retirement can happen. Andrew Luck showed that, and he was on track to being a Hall of Fame type player, and the money, he turned down money. He's like, it's not worth. I'm getting hit I'm getting killed out here. I'm getting killed. And the Colts had improved their team, their offensive line especially. Now they have one of the better offensive lines, but it just got draining, carrying a team. He was carrying team. And I think that could happen with Watson. Obviously they're making the playoffs. It's good, but, they've taken advantage of the division being on the down and Andrew Luck missing a lot of time. So they benefited off that. But, you keep making the playoffs. What's the next step is to get to that next level, to at least an AFC championship, get to the Super Bowl. We saw Marvin Lewis, he made the playoffs and never won a game, and eventually he lost his job, so you have to take that next step. If he doesn't do it this year, there's no way he survives this year. If with all the moves he's made, trading Watson's top receiver and all the moves with trading Clowney this year and all the draft picks he gave up for Tunsil, if they don't improve and, they blew a big lead in the playoff. They should have been in the AFC championship game.
Okay, so are we setting the standard at AFC Championship game? Because the way you're sounding is like he has to win the Super Bowl, which I don't think we consider the Texans at that level.
No, AFC Championship. It's got to be. Anything less than that, it's done. They can't go on with him because I don't see it getting better.
Around the AFC, I mean, really you only have to worry about the Chiefs. So, yeah, I guess it makes sense. Okay, well.
I take offense to that, Juju. I mean, I'm just kidding. Be realistic. We're not in the same. We're not in the same category as the Chiefs. I know that.
I mean, once you guys trade for Le'Veon Bell back,
you don't want him back. No.
I hear Antonio Brown's been making that apology tour. If he doesn't end up in Tampa, I mean, get the band back together, right? Killer Bees, Ben, Bell, Brown. No. Not down for it?
If it didn't work when they were all younger, I don't think that it works when they're all older. So.
Okay, well, let's see here. What's some more things? So let's kind of touch on Dak just because, again, he did get that franchise tag, and I do think that a bunch of other media outlets are taking the role with this. Again, the guy's making $31 million, and we still don't know how good of a talent Dak is. He has come up short in some big games. I mean, let's face it. He didn't even score a touchdown against the Patriots last year or, even the Eagles whenever the division was on the line. So, I mean, it's hard to really bend over backwards for this guy when he's turning down $33 million for a 4-year deal. How is a 4th-round pick who's questionable at best turning down that in Texas while being the Dallas Cowboys starting quarterback? You realize how much of an opportunity that is alone? Even if you just didn't even make a salary, just being the Dallas Cowboys starting quarterback is an opportunity to make money in itself. I'm starting to turn on Dak, admittedly, as this thing is going, because be reasonable. You're not going to get Patrick Mahomes money. That is not going to happen. That is not in the cards. You're not even getting Deshaun Watson money. If we were to rank Dak, is he top 10? Top 12, more likely. Well, okay. Well, if you're top 12, you deserve more of a back-end, middle-of-the-pack salary, which probably puts you closer to Kirk Cousins than it does to those upper-tier Russell Wilson types.
Yeah, but we know Kirk Cousins gets paid, though.
And he got paid again. He got a 2-year extension. 2 more years of Kirk.
He knows how to finesse the system.
He just knows how to not be bad enough to where he could get cut, but also not be good enough to elevate his team past that. So, I mean, which is again where we're at with Dak. It's like Dak has won plenty of games in the league. Dak has also not lost plenty of games in the league. It's just like, what standard are we holding to him? Is he just good enough that they're not losing, or is he going to be that catalyst that elevates them? Because eventually, we saw it a little bit this year. That offensive line's deteriorating. Ezekiel Elliott, he wasn't nearly the running back he was 2 years ago. I mean, Amari Cooper got paid. That's another big one. He got a $100 million deal in his own right, but I don't think they can afford to keep the band together while also paying Dak Prescott what he wants.
Yeah, I mean, Dak's a good quarterback. He's definitely a starting caliber quarterback, and there's some weeks he'll look like an elite quarterback, but most weeks he's going to look like him and Kirk Cousins are pretty much similar. You look at the end of this, especially Kirk, his stats will tell you that he's an elite quarterback, but if you actually watch the game, it shows that, okay, he's not that elite. He likes to stat pad a lot. And I also think that Dak is looking at Watson and Mahomes contracts and seeing how much they're going to get, because they're going to set the markets, especially Patrick. He's going to get a blank. He's going to be the $200 million quarterback. He's going to be the first guy to hit the 200. So I think Dak's looking at that, but you're not Patrick Mahomes. You're not even Deshaun Watson. So if they're offering you, $33 million per year, that's hard to turn down, especially in Texas, no state tax. I don't know how he turns that down. I don't know if he's listening to the wrong people. I would take it, but the franchise tag alone, you're getting $31 million after being a 4th round pick. and nobody expected you to be anything, that's a big bump in pay right there. So, I would have took the 33 and for 4 years and been happy with that. But I think he's looking at that Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson deals that are coming up and trying to go off that. But if I'm the Cowboys, I'd be like, whoa, slow down there, brother. No. You're not those guys. You're definitely not Patrick Mahomes. You're not an MVP type player. You're good for the system. And he's also fits the system perfect too. So I think that's why the Cowboys are like, we're going to wait before we think about signing you long term.
And like you said, he's sort of fallen into a system quarterback. We know that he doesn't have that great of accuracy when he's throwing really far down range, right? So when he's throwing long balls, he just doesn't have the accuracy there. And really, before they got Amari Cooper, like you could tell that the Cowboys were starting to become stagnant. So I understand why they gave Amari all that money that he wanted. But Dak, you can go to him with these arguments and say, hey, look, right? Like you're only able to make short passes. You're not very accurate down the field. Before we got you one of the best receivers in the game right now, right? Arguably a top 10 receiver. You weren't able to be that productive. You're not very productive if Zeke is off the field. And there's going to be times where guys are injured. They're going to sit out a game or whatever. So every time that Zeke sits out, are you going to worry that you're going to lose that game? Doesn't matter who it's to. And I think winning is a big part of Dak's argument. Like Juju, like you said, he is able to get wins on his record, right? But I think it's more of they avoided the loss rather than he won them the game. And so I don't think Dak really has that big of a leg to stand on when it comes to this argument of, hey, I need to be paid like some of these top tier guys. That being said, I'm never going to fault a guy for going after more money. If he wants more money, by all means, he can argue till he's blue in the face for it. I just don't see that the Cowboys ever pay him the money that he wants.
Does he hold out?
I don't think so. I think it is a lot of money, right? Especially coming off his rookie contract was so little. I think that he's going to say, hey, this franchise tag is actually kind of pretty good. Like it's 31 million, right? For one season. That's going to be more money than he's ever seen his entire rookie contract.
Yeah, if he was like a first-round pick and he had money, I think he'd try to go for the holdout. But like you said, he was a fourth. I mean, he's made money with endorsements and stuff. But obviously, being a fourth-round pick, he might be the most least-paid starting quarterback in the league, being a fourth-round pick and stuff. So I think he looks at that 31 mil as like $400K. I was making $400K as a fourth-round pick, whatever, $600K, whatever. Now making $31 million. Okay, for a year I could do this, but next season, it all depends on his play. If he balls out this year, they might be forced to pay him long term. So, if he has a good season, if he bets on himself and says, we know what, I'll play under the tag, well, I'm gonna show you guys that now the price is gonna go up even more. So it could benefit him in a way too, signing the tag and just balling out, 35 touchdowns, division, get today's NFC Championship, Super Bowl. His price tag might go up, so this might benefit him.
Here's the worst case for Dak. Let's say he just replicates his numbers this year or just barely slightly increases them. Do the Cowboys go 9-7 or something like that? Then the Cowboys are put in this position where they might have to franchise tag him again. And the franchise tag goes up next year because it goes up the second time you're tagged. You could just end up like a Kirk Cousins situation where I believe Kirk in 2-year span made $60+ million just off getting franchise tagged twice. Mm-hmm. So, hey, looking on that from that perspective, there's certainly worse situations you could be caught in. All right, guys, I'm going to ask you just to do a rapid fire on some of these like new names, new places, kind of what we're projecting for it. So obviously the big one is going to be the quarterback swaps and the quarterback situations. What are the odds that Marcus Mariota replaces Derek Carr at some point this year?
100%. 100%.
Okay. Right.
I don't think Gruden is in love with Carr at all. That's not his guy. I think 100% Mariota takes over.
Okay, I'm not going to go that far, but I'll give it probably a 70% at some point. I think it's going to be one of those issues that the second that Carr messes up, he's getting yanked. So Carr is always going to be looking over his shoulder, right? Hey, is Mariota coming for my job? And the second, like I said, he has a bad game, I think he's getting pulled and Mariota goes.
What are the odds that Case Keenum steals a start from Baker Mayfield at some point this year?
That one's tough.
Worked with Stefanski in Minnesota.
That one's tough.
I'm still going to go with 0%. Well, maybe not 0. Let's say 15. I'll say 15%.
I'll say 15 too, yeah. 15, 20%.
Okay, the Colts with Philip Rivers now under center. Do they go over or under last year's win total, 7-9?
That's tough. They've gotten better with, getting DeForest Buckner and stuff. Yeah, I'll go over. 8-8, 9-7, around that range. They could be this year.
I think we just saw Phillip Rivers, and he was kind of bad last year. And granted, you could blame it on some of the team or whatever, and, say his line or whatever it was. I think they're going to be right around 7-9 again. I think they sort of stay flat.
Okay, Ryan Tannehill just got re-upped in Tennessee on a 4-year deal. Do the Titans make it back to the playoffs? They were 9-7 last year, obviously in the AFC Championship game. What are the odds that they're back in the playoffs? Not in the AFC Championship, in the playoffs.
That's tough. We were seeing this with a lot of teams, these type of teams. The success doesn't usually duplicate the next year. So I'm going to say they don't make the playoffs. I don't think the Tannehill magic's going to be there. They might get the Miami Dolphins Tannehill, and that wasn't all that great. So, yeah, I don't see that happening.
I agree. I think they're sort of one-dimensional, right? Everybody sort of saw their one-trick pony when it came to Henry. And then Tannehill, I think he sort of, regresses back to what we've seen in the past. And Tannehill was never, awful in Miami. I get there were injuries, and the team wasn't always the best. But I think he takes a step backward. I don't think that we get the amount of production that we saw from Tannehill. Because that guy was balling out. He was like a top 6 quarterback or top 5 quarterback at one point in the year. I don't think that that's sustainable long run. So I'm going to go with Chris. I'm going to say, no, we don't see them back in the playoffs.
Okay, let's look at the NFC picture a little bit. Odds that Nick Foles completely replaces Mitch Trubisky this year. 100?
Wait, what's after what? 2,000? Yeah, 200% chance. They realize that they messed up. That's why you get Nick Foles. You realize, oh man, we drafted the wrong guy.
Here's the problem with
Nick Foles. And you traded up to get him too.
Here's the problem with Nick Foles, though. He's never finished an NFL season. Never. And he's gotten into opportunities. So I think it could be a weird time split situation. Dre, where are you feeling on this situation?
I think they're going to split a little bit of time. I think they're going to start with Trubisky, and then it's going to be a similar situation. As soon as he messes up, just the instant he messes up, they're going to pull him out. They're going to go with Foles. But Foles sort of underwhelmed last year, right? Even with the Jaguars. And I get he got injured, which sucks. But I think Foles is sort of underwhelming as well. So they're going to have that situation where they switch from Trubisky, right? And then they're like, oh, no, we got to go back to him. I think it's going to be sort of the same situation.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that's a good question there. So, Dre, you project that Mitch Trubisky is going to take the opening snaps. Do you also feel that way, Chris, or do you think Foles is going to have it out training camp?
I think Foles wins it out. If he's healthy, I think he wins the job. They realize they messed up, that he's not the guy.
Okay.
Yeah, that whole city pretty much hates Trubisky right now.
It's bad. They messed that whole draft up. I couldn't believe they took Mitch to begin with, and then they traded up one spot to get him. John Lynch finessed him. He finessed that trade. He's like, let's do this trade. Yeah. And
isn't it funny though that the best team that the Bears have had in years got eliminated in the playoffs by Nick Foles just a couple years ago? So it all comes full circle sometimes. Okay, Panthers. Teddy Bridgewater is now going to be the quarterback. Got a 3-year deal. They finished 5-11 last year. They also have a new head coach. Over under.
They're in a tough division, and there's a certain guy that just came to that division too. So I think they'll improve, but I think this is going to be a little bit of a rebuild. So I think they'll do 7-9.
I agree. It's going to be tough. I don't think Bridgewater's going to have the success that he did with the Saints, right? Just because that was such a well-run organization, and they've got a whole lot of pieces right there. We know the Panthers have been struggling a little bit. I am going to take over. I'm going to say that they improve, but I think they're going to be below the 8-8 mark. So, yeah, I think 7-9 sounds right, or 6-10.
Well, let's talk about some guys that we don't know where they are heading. Jameis Winston, where's he at? Cam Newton, he's got permission to seek a trade even though he didn't ask for it. Andy Dalton's still out there. If any team just wanted to pick up someone serviceable. What do you think? Where are these guys landing? Pick a spot.
That's tough. The Patriots need a quarterback. I think Dalton goes to New England. I just think that's a good fit for him to go to New England. I think he fits that system well. Jameis, I don't know where Jameis goes. That's L.A., the Chargers. He might have to take a backup role, maybe. I don't know with Jameis. His play scares the living crap out of, out of people. So, no, that style play is not something that a lot of teams are going to be comfortable with. So, Jameis might have a tough time finding a spot, unless he goes to the Chargers or stuff, or he might have to battle for a spot. But I don't know with Jameis that much. But, yeah, I think Dalton goes to New England. I think that's a good fit for him.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I'm going to go Dalton goes to New England. I think it's a really good fit as far as the system that New England runs. I think the type of players that they want, right? Like, they don't want guys that are a big distraction and make everything about themselves, like a Cam Newton. Winston has more of the personality, but less of the style of play, right? Like, New England doesn't like to be as risky with the ball, whereas Jameis is just throwing it just to throw it sometimes, right? And you're like, why the heck would he do that? I think Dalton is the perfect fit for New England. I think that Cam, I think he ends up in LA as well. I think LA's going to need a quarterback. We know that. They're not quite high enough up in the draft to get any of the really, really good quarterbacks this year. So I'm gonna go them. And then Winston, I think he's gonna be a backup. I'm hoping it happens. I texted our group. I'm hoping he goes to Pittsburgh actually as possibly a backup. Though we don't quite have the cap room. I know it's gonna be kind of a stretch. Like, who do we move off, right, and stuff like that. But I'm hoping he goes to Pittsburgh.
All right, I'm kind of feeling this way. So this rumor has picked up a little bit of steam lately. Kind of makes sense. Redskins, Ron Rivera there. I say they go and make a run at Cam. I think that the market for Cam has been suppressed a little bit. Cam and Rivera know each other. They've worked well with each other. And when Cam has been healthy, those teams have been winning. I don't buy into Dwayne Haskins long-term. What I saw last year just didn't impress me enough. I know he was really only playing his second full season as a starter, period, in like the college and pro levels. But either way, he just didn't have the stuff. He didn't have the juice to keep going in my mind. So I'm going to say Cam ends up in Washington. I'm going to say Jameis ends up in LA. I think that would be a proper fit. I know that they're saying they're going to stick with Tyrod, but the opportunity to get a young quarterback in his mid-20s, and Jameis still has a load of talent. Put him around those right guys, big-bodied wide receivers like Mike Williams, just target magnet, and Keenan Allen. I think would be a fitting move to put him there. And Jameis, just get him on the West Coast for a little bit. He's been just stuck out there between Florida State, Tampa Bay. Just get him a change of scenery, and maybe it might change his perspective a little bit. Andy Dalton, makes sense. Like you said, if he ends up in New England, I could also just see him just staying in Cincinnati, because at this point, what's your incentive to move him? Unless you're going to get something phenomenal, which it's hard to see in a very quarterback saturated market. And call me crazy, but I think I'm starting to buy into Bill Belichick just wanting to roll with Jarrett Stidham at this point. He just buys into these guys he brings in through his system. Josh McDaniels has been working with him now for 2 years. So I think that at this point, just show your cards, and worst case scenario, let's say New England's drafting in the top 10, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, and then they're going to dominate for another 2 decades. So should be fun. Okay, guys. Well, let's get into the big fish here. Thomas Brady is with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. After much speculation, after plenty of inquiry, it's final. It's done. TB12 is heading to Florida. No state income tax there either. So Giselle, him, get a hold on to that precious dough. And, well, I guess we'll see what the Florida Sunshine does for Brady in his age 43 season. One of those things, it could go one or two ways. It's just going to be we're going to look at that, remember that weird time when Tom Brady was in Tampa Bay? Or it could be, wow, Tom Brady really separated himself from Bill Belichick, and it was Brady that steered the ship to that organization for the last 2 decades. So that posed an interesting question that I just kind of want to have you, Chris, and you, Dre, kind of hash out for me. So you each got 2 opportunities to respond to each other here. Who is going to finish with the better season, the New England Patriots or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Chris, start us off.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just think with the Patriots, I think that they're just like every other team now. They're just like every other team now. I know every team in the AFC East is just oh my God, 12 is gone. 12 was gone, and now we get to see, okay, Belichick. Obviously, Belichick has done a great job, but he's made a lot of questionable roster moves, especially with his draft. He hasn't drafted great at all, and 12 has been able to take care of those holes and stuff. So now you don't have him. And like you said, maybe Jarrett Stidham's the quarterback there, and, he has talent, but, he played some last year. I remember there was a game he played, and they're like, oh, no, you go back to the bench. They put Brady back in. So, he's still questionable whether they get a vet or they draft a quarterback. But this is the biggest test for Bill Belichick. Because they lost a lot of guys this offseason. They've lost a lot of guys. They just traded Darrell Harmon. Cal Van Noy's gone. They've lost a lot of guys. And I think Tampa Bay, with Brady, they have a guy who's, you're not going to worry about 30 interceptions. Tampa Bay lost at least 3-4 games last year strictly because of Jameis. And you just what did he do? Why'd you throw that? And I remember the Giant game when Daniel Jones' first game, he cost him that game. If Jameis doesn't throw a whole bunch of picks, they win that game. I'm confident that Tom Brady's going to come in. He has two big-time receivers with Godwin and Evans. Hopefully he can get something out of Howard, who's been on and off, but he has talent, and Brady there too. We'll see what they do with the running game, but I like the way this team is built. Before that, the defense has a lot of good young guys with Devin White, and they just re-signed JPP, and they got the guy who just led the league in sack. I can't think of his name right now, but they have the talent, and they just added the greatest quarterback of all time. I know it's a tough division with Drew Brees, but I'll take Tampa Bay to win more games.
All right, so I've got this hot take that's going, and I'm going to drop it, Juju, so we need to get like one of those little sound things, right? Have a flame that lights up or something. I actually think that Brady is not going to make the playoffs, so I think this is going to be one of the first years that we do not see Brady in the playoffs in a very long time. My thinking on that is, and with that being said, I also think that the Patriots are going to do better, right, than Brady will. My thinking is, one, Bill Belichick is probably the greatest mind in football that we've ever seen. He was able to take Matt Castle, right, in the year that Brady got hurt, to an 11-5 season. And if you can do that with Matt Castle, you're doing pretty good. We've seen that he was able to do a lot of good things, right, with Jimmy Garoppolo and some of these other backups that even when Brady is taken out of the picture, the team doesn't fall apart. And the reason being is because they're so well coached. And Belichick can take these guys that, if you put them on any other team, they're going to turn to crap. They're going to turn back into a pumpkin. Everybody else, though, if they're there with the Patriots, they're going to be 100%. You're going to get as much value out of them as you can. I think Bill is able to do that. Some of the other things are Brady, if we look at it, statistically, every single season, he's gotten worse and worse and worse, right? So going back to 2015. So every season since 2015, he's gotten worse pretty much statistically. He's had his fewest yards that he's ever had. His completion percentage was the lowest that it's been since 2015. Granted, there was that 2016 season, which he did serve that suspension, right? So his total yardage for that year was a little bit lower. But if you had extrapolated it across those 4 games, it would have been right in line, though. Basically, he would have had 2015 would have been his best season. 2016 would have been his second best, and then it kept going and digressing. So I think his quarterback rating as well, right, has gone down every single year since 2015. And I think we're starting to see Brady's just getting old. The other issue is that New England had a pretty decent line protecting Brady last year. Tampa Bay, they allowed about 20 more sacks and 20 more hits on Winston than Brady got hit in New England. And when you have a 43-year-old quarterback that is not super scrambly, is not athletic, can Tom Brady really take that many hits, right? 20 more hits than he did last season? I don't know. I think we're starting to see him digress as an athlete. I think we're starting to see him digress as a quarterback. I think having the lack of protection in Tampa Bay that he had, yes, he'll have better options to pass to at every position almost, right? Tight end is going to be better. Receivers are going to be better. But I just think that statistical decline is a pattern, and I think we're going to see it again this year. So with all those reasons, I think they don't make the playoffs, and the Buccaneers is who I'm talking about. And I think that Bill Belichick and his Patriots continue as normal, and they're still going to be good. Not as good as they have been. I don't think that they're going to the Super Bowl, but I think that they're going to be better.
Obviously, Tom, he's not the, 5 years ago Tom Brady. He has declined. I admit that. But also, his team has declined, too. Especially his weapons. His weapons, especially their receivers. I mean, they haven't had, other than Julian Edelman, who else have they really had? Hogan, and they had AB for one game. He's probably the best receiver they had in that time span. So, I just think, yes, the Bucs offensive line, not as good as the Patriots, but I just think with the weapons he has, like you said, they are significantly better than anything he has had in a long time. And I just think that short passing game he likes to do, I think that he'll incorporate that, knowing that, okay, the offensive line is not as strong. It's not strong here. So let me incorporate with these big dudes that we got. They got Godwin and Evans, and I think he's going to incorporate the tight end. I think this is going to be great for O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard must be doing – because Tom Brady loves throwing to tight ends too. They've always incorporated 2 tight end sets. They did with, Aaron Hernandez and all that, and he loves throwing to his tight ends. Last year he didn't do that because they had I think they had the worst tight end production out of any team. They had no production. I can't even name a tight end they had, and Julian Edelman looked old and stuff. And, they they gave a second-round pick from Mohamed Sanu. They could have got Hopkins if Bill just would have called Bill. You know, if he would just called Bill, he'd be like, "Wait, hold up, second-round pick? Damn, I just traded for Sanu. We could have got Hopkins. Damn." I think Brady going to Tampa Bay and bringing the TB12 thing down to Tampa Bay, where it's nice, it's warm, his body's gonna feel a lot better. I think all that's it's the perfect fit. Bruce Arians is Bruce Arians. Offensive mind. I love it. Again, I think he's going to do wonders there.
Yeah, no, I get a lot of those arguments, and you're exactly right. Yes, he's declined statistically, but some of that you got to attribute to the team. And the fact of the matter is the Patriots just didn't want to give him the pieces that he needed to succeed. And I think that's a big reason why he left is, hey, I'm giving you guys all these chances, right? I'm giving you the opportunity to go out and get me somebody. And they weren't able to land any of those big guys that we named, right? Stephon Diggs. They couldn't get him. They couldn't get Hopkins. And you said, right, they were able to pick up Mohamed Sanu for a second. Why wouldn't they offer a first for a Hopkins or something like that? Why not just get on the phone and say, hey, we need to get Tom Brady somebody. What's your price for some of these big receivers, right? So I 100% agree with you that some of the fault is on the Patriots organization not providing Tom Brady what he needs. You do mention, though, right, going into Bruce Arians, and I think the pieces all look like they're going to fit really well. I just question, though, is how much of a system quarterback is Tom Brady. I know we were talking about this with Dak Prescott, that if Dak moves somewhere else, is that going to be the same Dak? I want to know if this is going to be the same Tom Brady, because Tom Brady, he's only ever had one coach for his entire career. He's only had one system, one playbook. That's all he had to know. That's all he had to learn. Now you're going to something completely different. It's a new playbook. Bruce Arians does sort of like, that 7-step drop back, and then you throw a little bit longer. Tom Brady's not as good at that. So are they going to start shifting towards Brady's system? I think Arians is a good enough mind that he could say, yes, I can start to incorporate what Tom does well, right? And I think Arians is also humble enough to do that, where he's not going to say, I'm going to make Tom Brady fit my system. I'm going to use my pieces in the best way possible. But still, given that Tom's going to be 43 years old, you're going to have this new system he's never played in before. I think they're going to get off sort of to a slow start, especially given that they're going to have some tough teams, right? In the NFC, it's just a lot tougher all around. You've got teams battling them, right? Like you've got the 49ers, obviously. They've got those big defenses that you're going to have to play. You got, the Drew Breeses and the Saints that you're going to have to duel. And it's going to be a shootout pretty much every single game that you play against them. You got the Seattle Seahawks, who Russell Wilson alone is a monster. And if you ever play him on your schedule, that's going to be a tough game. They've got the Rams are still no joke, though. I think the Rams obviously weren't as good last year, but they were still pretty tough. I think they'll be tough again this year, though I know they've lost some of their defensive key pieces that got them to the Super Bowl a few years back. Cowboys are still no joke, right? So you've got all these teams that you can just go down the list. And I know there's quite a few that, I'm not even mentioning or I'm forgetting that are going to be really tough, the Green Bays and the Vikings. Whereas in the AFC, Brady didn't quite have that, right? And he got a walk in the park playing the Miamis and the Bills before they really got good, right? Last year, they ended up being all right. The Jets, come on, like that's a joke. And then I think they just had big brother syndrome over teams like San Diego, like Pittsburgh, right? Is that they've played Brady so much and lost him so much that they don't even get motivated for that game anymore. And so I think things are going to be different.
All right, guys. Well, very passionate debate, very strong stances on both sides. And I think it's only fair to declare a winner. The winner is me, because I don't have to see Tom Brady in a San Francisco 49ers uniform. As much as coming home, the story, this little Bay Area kid finds his way onto his favorite franchise. No, I'm not about it. I'm not going to mortgage the future for it. I said as much last week. But with that said, the true winner is the National Football League, because with Brady in a new home, with us finally getting a chance to see that Brady-Bill dynamic, who comes out on top in this divorce, it's a story that we can actually talk about and get excited for this coming season. I mean, you talk about like great storylines. I think this is probably one of the best of our lifetimes, and I'm not going to turn away the opportunity to watch a Bucs game next year where I would have not otherwise. Fox is so happy that they get to put Brady versus Breeze on some afternoon Sunday games. That's going to make big time ratings. So kudos to them. As far as the Patriots goes, they're going to be rough TV to watch potentially, because, I mean, unless we figure out who's going to be their quarterback. I mean, a lot of question marks there. A lot of question marks. But like I said, it's exciting. It's new. We need some new. We've saw a lot of excitement with players like Patrick Mahomes coming out, Deshaun Watson coming out. Brady, New England, let's face it kind of got stale after a minute. I'm excited for it. I know the rest of the league's excited for it. All right, Chris. I mean, we've been on here for close to a couple hours, so let me send you off on a question that I think I'm just going to incorporate into our future podcast moving forward. What's your favorite sports movie all time?
That's tough.
Yeah, we asked our guest last week on it, and she struggled with it too. She was pissed off that I threw it as a surprise, but we have to get your popcorn show. We like to talk some sports movies. Sports movies are all we got right now, so let's hear what your favorite is.
That's tough because I mean, there's so many great movies, and there's movies in each sport that I absolutely love. But if you're gonna put on one, I had to go with one that I'm.
This is the desert island situation. This is if we get locked in our homes for months on end, and this is the only movie that you can play on your on-demand streaming. Or let's face it, internet's just gone at this point. We can only put stuff in VHS players. What are you popping into that cassette tape?
I think it's going to come down between He Got Game and Major League.
Ooh, I love Major League.
You got the He Got Game, the more serious movie, but has a lot of fun elements in that movie. Especially with Jesus Shuttlesworth. But but Major League is just a classic. Put me on the spot. You know what? Every time Major League's on, I watch it. So I want to go Major League because it's just hysterical. That movie's hysterical.
All right. Allow me to cue the Wow Thing music here. Okay, Chris. Well, like we're saying, so you are shifting away from purely basketball at this point. So tell us, Off the Ball podcast, where are people going to find you? What do they need to know to find you? And some of the stuff you're working on at this point.
So yeah, like I said before, Off the Ball podcast, I'm expanding, talking about pretty much everything. I also just launched a website. I'm gonna start producing more baseball and NFL draft stuff. I've done some stuff on there. I have some stuff posted up there on the website. But yeah, I'm expanding, and I'm actually happy that I'm doing this. Something I've been thinking about doing. I was planning on dropping a football podcast right at draft time, but since, like I said, basketball's on a hiatus and stuff, I said, you know what, let's just dive into everything. So pretty much I'm going to be talking about everything on the show. I got some NFL draft guys that I got planned on coming on the show in the next few weeks. Just had an NBA draft guy on yesterday. So you could find me Off the Ball podcast. You can I'm on Anchor, which is my host. I'm on iTunes. I'm on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the major platforms I'm on. Off the Ball podcast, Off the Ball pod on Instagram and Twitter, and just launched the Off the Ball pod at WordPress.com website. So check that out. A lot of cool stuff coming up there. Doing NFL draft stuff and more. Of course, NBA content as usual. I'm gonna have up. Continuing with the NBA stuff. I'm still doing that, so people don't freak out. I know people are like, oh, no more basketball. It's like, nah, still got your basketball stuff coming. So still got that going. And, fantasy football stuff. I'm a big fantasy football guys like you guys are, so produce some stuff there on the website, have that up. So I'm excited about it. And, just find me on there and just hit me up and, listen to the show and just love how it's, the show has gone. And I'm super excited about the future.
Okay, sounds good. Dre, you got any big plans tonight?
No, we can't really do much, right? So Albuquerque's kind of on lockdown. They basically said you can't even go out and get a bite to eat. Or I guess I should change that. You can get it through pickup, right, or carry out, but you can't sit in the restaurant. And then movie theaters are closed now. So I will probably just chill at home, see if I could find something good on Netflix or Hulu.
All righty, sounds good. Okay, so Slumpbuster podcast is in the books. This is another great episode. Thanks to our guest this week. You obviously know these are trying times. You got lots of free time on your hands, so hit that subscribe button. Listen to more podcasts. You can't go to the gym. You can't go to a restaurant. Screw it. Just listen in. Let us occupy your living room, wherever you're listening. We don't care. Anyway, find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play Store, YouTube, iTunes, all the mainstays. And in these times, guys, like I just wanted you to remember that you can't get ill if you're the illest. We'll see you next time.